everybody. Welcome to our 5th annual New Mexico Science Fiesta. We are here live today with a group of students and graduate students from New Mexico Tech, and they are with the New Mexico Solar Energy Association, and they're going to talk about their SunChaser model that they're developing to teach us all about solar. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Gabriel, and he will introduce the rest of his crew.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Maestas. Like Trish said, we are interns with the New Mexico Solar Energy Association. This is...
I'm Figueroa. I am a junior mechanical engineer.
I'm Isaac Flores. I'm a mechanical engineering graduate.
Hi, I'm Seth Cisnes. I am a junior mechanical engineering student at New Mexico Tech.
And I am a mechanical engineering student at New Mexico Tech as well. So what we're going to be doing during this live is talking about the SunChaser and how we developed it and the curriculum that's going to go along with it. So what we're going to do is Dan and I are going to talk about the design and kind of the engineering that went behind it. And then Seth and Isaac are going to join us at the end, and they'll talk about the curriculum that goes alongside the education tool. So we'll take these off so you can actually hear us. So, as you can see here, this is basically the final model of the SunChaser. It's a trailer system, and we'll get into what that is here in a bit. It's displaying renewable energy concepts, which Dana will give us a brief overview on.
All right, so in order to understand the premise of our project, you kind of have to know what renewable energy is. So renewable energy refers to any source that is sustainable. And by sustainable, that means that it will replenish itself or it will renew before we can use it all. Also, renewable energy is not reliant on fossil fuels such as coal and natural gas, because those contribute to carbon emissions, and carbon emissions contribute to global warming, which causes a lot of really bad environmental effects, and we are trying to reverse that. So our SunChaser deals more with solar power, and solar power is the gathering of energy from the sun. It is a lot better for New Mexico in general than the other forms of renewable energy that you guys might have heard of, like wind and hydropower, because for one, we don't really have water here. And also wind power in and of itself isn't quite as reliable because of the fact that wind doesn't blow all the time. And I'm sure those of you who've been here long enough can attest to this, that the fact that the wind here is not reliable. It'll blow really hard one day, and then the rest of the week it'll be completely still. So that is not good if you're trying to reach net zero and trying to get off the grid completely with just renewable energy. New Mexico is also really good for solar because of the fact that New Mexico is number 2 in the amount of sunlight we get in the state. We're actually number 2 only to Arizona. Also, renewable energy is very easy. Well, it's relatively easy to integrate into residential homes as well as commercial buildings.
So before we get into all this explanation of what we actually did, if anyone has any questions or comments about either the SunChaser or why we made our decisions, or engineering in general, since we're engineering students and I know we're talking to some students out there, we'll be happy to answer questions, and we'll be taking questions throughout the presentation. So without further ado, here's the SunChaser. It is, as you can see, a box trailer of sorts. It's an enclosed trailer with the purpose of being a mobile education tool that displays various renewable energy concepts. All the concepts on the SunChaser are those that can be readily adopted in homes across New Mexico. And it's really, we designed it to be kind of a scaled down version of a house. So anything you see here is applicable to our own homes. As you can see here, it's the model of it opening up. So in terms of energy concepts.
Yeah, so our SunChaser exhibits a couple of different solar energy concepts. So there's active power generation, which is stuff like photovoltaics, which is a specific type of solar panel like this one. There's also passive solar generation, which refers to solar architecture. So you just build your house in a certain way so that you can heat and cool your house without having to actually have something like a solar panel. So here's a picture of that right here, where they have an overhang over a window so that it can shade the window when the sun is at its peak during the summer, and then it's at an angle where it can still get sun in the morning during the winter, since the sun is in different places, different times of the year, and you can use that to heat your house. It also includes, SunChaser also includes insulation, which is really important when you're trying to show off renewable energy, because of the fact that heating and cooling is where a lot of the power consumption comes from in residential and commercial buildings. So if you don't have insulation, then all that heating and cooling you're spending your money on and spending power on is just going to go to waste. So insulation is really important. We also have a storage system in the form of batteries. So the SunChaser, we had to make a couple of decisions so that we can optimize our trailer. And those decisions included deciding what would be the best for our trailer platform. Insulation, like I said before, we were trying to look for which one was the most efficient while also having, while also not being really expensive. We also have a Awnings system that will work for the solar architecture part of our tool. We also have the photovoltaics like this one, like I was talking about. We have the batteries. We also included the air conditioning because, like I said, heating and cooling contributes to a lot of the power consumption. So trying to show that off is really important for this tool. We have a water system to show another part of passive solar generation, which is using thermal water heaters. So you just use a panel with the sun directly on it to heat up your water, and you use that instead of actually using a natural gas heater. And we also have a monitoring system to make sure things like our water system and all of our electronics are working properly without having to, because if you don't keep track of them, they can damage themselves and you have to end up maintaining them all the time.
Yeah, so I guess the design really starts at the very base of the whole project, which is the trailer and the frame. There were a couple of ways we could have gone about it. One of the ways was to buy a box trailer and just work off of that. The other option was to start off with the flatbed, as you can see in the model there, and then build our own frame, our own enclosure to kind of get some customizability in there. And as you can see, we decided for the latter option. We decided to build our own frame because it gave us a lot of customizability, a lot of leeway in our decision making for the designs. So it was really quite useful in that respect. The other big part of this is actually the third SunChaser. The SunChaser 2K20 is the third in the series, and it is actually, this one's going to be a bit smaller and lighter than the last one. We're shooting for about a 6-foot by 10-foot trailer and less than 5,000 pounds, so most vehicles can tow it, and it's maneuverable and lightweight. The previous generation had a lot of issues with being too heavy and, well, dangerous to tow, so I hear. So we're addressing those issues. So, as Dana alluded to, insulation is one of those long forgotten renewable energy concepts that is really important. None of the solar panels or that electricity you generate matters if it's all going out the window or the walls because you don't have insulation. So insulation is one of those big things, and partly why we decided to do a custom frame is because, well, you can kind of see here, sorry the picture's a little grainy, is that what we're going to do is we're going to have a exterior wall panel, then we're going to have the frame between that with the insulation in the gap, and then an interior wall panel. So we're going to have two wall panels with insulation in between. And that'll give us up to 2 inches worth of insulation on all sides of the trailer of the SunChaser, including the top and bottom, which is going to be extremely helpful for us in terms of overall efficiency and reaching that net zero, which the SunChaser does do. So it's quite useful in that respect. And then the gap between the panels also provides a good place for, say, wire management and like piping for the radiant floors we're going to talk about later in the presentation. So down here, you have a
wanna-
question?
Yeah, I do. So, we're all about the engineering design process, and we're always trying to teach in STEM and STEAM, that it's always not the first time, right? You have a lot of prototypes. So how many prototypes of this unit have you guys gone through so far?
So we've gone through, I don't know, Dana, what do you think, 5 or 10?
Like during the summer?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had to make a lot of different decisions and change things because we don't quite know exactly which trailer we're going to use, so we're trying to base things off of that. We did look at box trailers and stuff. We did originally try and do something with that, but we wanted to add a window for the whole solar architecture thing so that we can show it off. We can't really do that with our window.
And deployable panels.
Yeah, the deployable panels, it's kind of hard to put those on the box trailers, especially since they're kind of beveled on the edges, around, not pointy, so it's kind of hard to do that. And even putting solar panels on top of box trailers are kind of hard because a lot of them are kind of rounded on the top too instead of flat. So we had to make all kinds of considerations. We had spreadsheet after spreadsheet just full of different things, but the general shape was kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, it
box.
was more of a rolling kind of iteration. It's it never really was just one design. It was just one that kept changing the whole way through in tiny little ways.
Yeah.
So I actually forgot to mention is we designed this all using SolidWorks, which is a CAD software. For those of you who don't know, CAD stands for computer aided design, and it's really useful because we can model all these things that we would otherwise have to build and test in real life. We can model it on the computer and make all these changes and see how it looks and see how it functions and make sure how strong it, we'll make sure it's going to be strong enough for a real world, all from the computer, so we don't have to spend all that time and money actually building it to test.
Great.
So.
Okay, so we were just talking about those deployable awnings. So deployable awnings do more than just the solar architecture stuff, the passive solar generation. They also can be used as shade for when we're actually presenting the SunChaser, because it's not going to be very big for classrooms if we're going to schools, because classrooms usually have, at least in elementary school, I remember there being 20 to 30 people in my class, and that cannot fit that many people in there. So some of those people might have to stand outside, and they'll have that for shade. The deployable awnings also allow us to put more solar panels on top to power as many appliances as we wanted to put in there, which we do have a few, which I'll mention later. If we can also use those for security because this will be in Albuquerque and it will be parked in random places. So you can see right here, there's the door and there's the window. This can actually go all the way down against the side of the trailer. You can see that down there. And it'll go over the window, and we can lock them so that people can't get in there if they're not supposed to be in there. We also have one that's covering our AC unit, so the AC unit's not just in the sun. And I think that's it for the deployable awnings.
Yeah, and the thing is, oops, what did I do? Is when we travel, it's going to be in this little stowed position, so nice and compact. Because really the difficulty of engineering is the easy part's making things strong. The hard part is making them strong, but having low weight and the small size. Size and weight constraints drive engineering.
You can also use the deployable awnings to move those solar panels so that you can get the correct angle, because if the whole thing isn't covered in as much sun as possible, then it won't be able to reach its full potential and you won't be able to produce as much sunlight as you want. So if it's just completely out of the sun, it won't do anything. If it's like this, you get some sun. If it's like this, you get as much as you want. And it also depends on the time of day. They will have gas struts because it might get kind of heavy. So the gas struts will allow people to actually pick them up and you can lock them and everything like that.
So one of the big things those deployable awnings did for us is increase the surface area available for solar panels. And solar panels for us are going to be the main thing that provides electricity for the SunChaser, that net zero, the electricity. And really, you can see here in the picture, we have a ton of solar panels. The whole thing's coated in solar panels. We may not actually need this many, but we allowed ourselves enough surface area that we can add the maximum we could foreseeably see us using. So those awnings are very useful in that respect. And then so I guess we'll move into how you actually use the electricity. Because I remember my first project with solar panels when I was back in high school, and I wanted to put a solar panel on my truck, and I was like, let's just slap a solar panel onto something, plug it in. It's not quite that easy, but it's still very easy. Where really you only need 3 things to start a solar panel setup. You need a solar panel, you need a charge controller, and you need a battery. So what happens is you don't plug the solar panel directly into whatever you want to power normally, because the electricity coming from the panel isn't quite steady. So a charge controller makes that electricity coming from the panel, more steady, more consistent, and it feeds it into a battery. And then all the things you want to power, you power off the battery bank. So what we're having with this SunChaser is we're having a pretty large battery bank. It's 9,000 some watt hours worth of energy for those who are curious. And that'll do a couple things for us. We'll be able to run appliances that are both DC and AC currents. DC would be right off the battery. It's going to be a 12-volt system. And AC, we're going to use what's called an inverter, which converts DC into AC, so you can use AC appliances in the SunChaser, kind of like televisions and that sort, which we'll talk about next.
Aren't most household appliances off of AC? Yeah, so that's kind of important. So, like I was talking about with the systems, we wanted to include the air conditioning since that's going to cause a lot of the power consumption as well as heating. The first thing we looked at, or the first thing I thought of, was evaporative cooling. Since we use that a lot in New Mexico, that's what we know as swamp coolers. Evaporative coolers do use a lot less power than the normal refrigerated air, but in terms of if we're trying to make this design so other people can see it as well, evaporative coolers don't exactly work in every environment because not everywhere is as dry as here, and they only really work where it's pretty dry. Evaporative coolers also use water, but they don't use that much, so it's not really anything to worry too much about. They're also very low maintenance, and their mechanisms aren't, at least to me, aren't as intricate as the refrigerated air. But we did decide on the refrigerated air because of the fact that we will be producing enough power. We don't really have to worry about that. Refrigerated air is better for bigger rooms and stuff like that, but our room is small, but we didn't really have to worry about that. We really want to use a mini split, which will heat and cool at the same time pretty efficiently. It also pulls a lot of power, but like I said, then we won't have to have a separate heating unit that'll use natural gas, which is what a lot of people have in their houses right now. Some other appliances we wanted to include is a mini fridge because of the fact that a lot of people have fridges in their houses. We also wanted to include a television so that when it's being presented, we can put graphics and stuff on that television. Also, again, a lot of people have televisions in their house.
So this is all being powered by the panels that are on the little SunChaser.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
And I hope to mimic a small house.
Exactly. It mimics a small house, and it acts as an example for anyone viewing that these concepts definitely work, because this whole trailer is primarily renewable energy concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the cooler systems we have on the SunChaser, which you can see here, is the water system, where we will have actual running hot and cold water, which is really cool. So we get the hot water from actually this panel up here. You can see on the front, it's kind of got this snaking, let me see if I can draw it. This snaking section here, pipe that's full of water, and the sun heats up that water, and the water will it'll be hot water for our hot water system. And then here you can kind of see it's a bit covered, but we have our sink and all, and then here's some water storage tanks, hot and cold. And I've got a plumbing diagram here kind of explaining it, and I'll explain it verbally because it's a fun system that we actually added, in addition to the normal running hot and cold water, a radiant floor heating system that uses the hot water from the solar water heater panel. So it's really cool. So, for example, these radiant floors, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with them. People like having them in their bathroom because it makes your feet warm. And, you know, it's just a nice passive, feels kind of passive way of heating up in a space. So we figured that since this SunChaser is going to be out at schools and elsewhere all year round, you know, sometimes it's going to be summer and it's going to be hot. You don't want that hot water in the radiant floors. So you can store it outside the SunChaser in the hot storage tank. Or if it's winter and you do want to heat up the interior of the SunChaser, you can instead run all the hot water through the radiant floors. And either way, when you turn on the sink, you can have hot water. It just draws from whichever storage reservoir you're using. And that's kind of seen here in the diagram where we're using pumps for our water pressure and diverter valves to select the storage location for the hot water. And then it all dumps into what's called a gray water tank. People who RV a lot know the general setup. And if you're curious, one of the issues, and it is an issue for water systems like this, is that during winter they are prone to freezing and breaking pipes. That's kind of a big issue for these sorts of solar water heater systems. So what we're going to do is we're going to address that in the next slide with a little bit of diagnostics with our monitoring system for the trailer. So as I alluded to, we're going to have an anti-freezing system for sake of a better name. And that's all going to be run off an Arduino, where we'll be able to say, hey, if the temperature gets below freezing, you know, the trailer is at risk of having the water freeze and the pipes burst. You know, that's a bad day. So what we'll do is we'll have the Arduino be like, okay, it's getting below freezing, turn on the pumps and turn on an electric pipe heater. So we'll have water circulating and we'll have it heated. So that way it'll keep everything from freezing, it'll keep the whole system from freezing, and you don't have to really be there. Like, we don't have to be there physically to make sure that SunChaser doesn't, you know, break. The other cool part of that is we can actually, if we're concerned about the interior of the SunChaser getting too cold, like, I don't know, say you have something in there you don't want getting really cold, you can have the water, the hot water that's being heated and cycled, you can have that go through the radiant floors, and that'll actually, you know, heat the interior of the SunChaser, keep that from getting too cold as well. So it's a really cool system, and, you know, addresses multiple issues for us. And on top of that, we're going to have a general battery bank monitoring system, because like that pump, the pumps and the pipe heater are all going to be running off the onboard battery. And so we want to make sure it's not going to drain itself completely, and then we'll be able to keep an eye on it from afar, where we'll have, like, hopefully an app. We're planning on making an app where you can see, like, hey, we're getting this much power, electricity from our solar panels, and we're using this much electricity in all the appliances we have on board. So you can see how you're doing in terms of your battery storage. And then we'll have an overall monitoring system for the SunChaser, where, like I said, it'll show temperatures inside, outside, make sure, you know, everything is doing okay. And we're planning on being able to activate and deactivate different appliances. Say if we're parking it for a long time, we have it stowed away in a storage spot, we're going to be able to have the different appliances turned off. That way we don't waste electricity. You know, so it's really going to be a good system for all those renewable energy concepts. So if anyone has any questions, we're happy to take questions now.
So we are a bit on a delay. We are delayed on the live stream, but we have asking about, you know, having a whole home hookup like this.
Mm-hmm.
How far away are we? I mean, sometimes you can do it, right? I mean, people are using full solar now, right?
Oh yeah, no, even on my way driving here, I saw like two, actually I think it was a daycare, but they had a bunch of solar panels on their roof. It's like right down this way. And I've actually seen a lot of solar panels in New Mexico homes on top of the homes. Depending on how much power you use a year, it depends how many you need. We have quite a bit. From my calculations, it is possible to put enough solar panels to be completely off the grid. It's just that you will have to be mindful of it, and that's where that charge controller will also come in handy. And they do make like apps and stuff where you can check those things when you're not even in front of it.
So if your goal is to reach net zero, you know, it's really a culmination of a handful of things. I'll put on our little, what is it called? This, so you can see something cool while I'm talking. It's a culmination of different renewable energy concepts that gets you to net zero. Now, some of these concepts are definitely more difficult to employ than others, like the solar water heaters and radiant floors. That's kind of difficult because you got to tear out the floor of your house. For a trailer, you know, it's a lot easier. We designed it for that. So you might not get that in your home, but most of these concepts are pretty readily available. Like insulation is really one of those things that's super simple here. We have amazing insulations that, like one of them we were looking at is aerogel is what it's called. I remember the first time seeing that. The people who made it sent a guy up Mount Everest in a jacket made out of aerogel, and he overheated. So it was, you know, really a funny thing. Really excellent insulation, and that's, you know, one of those things that's not too difficult. Costs money, definitely costs money, but it's not too difficult, and it saves you money over time for sure. Same with the solar panels.
And what is your goal and your hope of exposure for this unit to the kids? Like what are you hoping when they see this? What are you hoping that they get out of it with the physical unit?
Well, for one, awareness. Because even when I don't think I knew about solar panels until maybe I was in middle school, and even then, I didn't quite know how that stuff worked. Like, I just see this, and I didn't know what this was. It can also, it's really interesting to see how you can implement them too. Like even this panel itself is part of an exhibit that's actually here at Explora, and it's powering a water pump, and I never would have thought that you can power, because you use water pumps for sinks, so you can power a sink with that. Like, yeah, like I already have. So yeah, this is I could think it's more awareness, and then some people don't have access to this kind of information either. So if their school will allow them to see these kinds of things, they'll get exposure to it. And it's even the solar architecture. I didn't actually know about that till now. The passive solar generation and the water, especially the water. I think the water system is pretty cool. I think that's a really cool way to heat up water without using like any natural gas or anything like that. And I wasn't aware of that till recently. So.
Yeah, all these concepts are, you know, feasible concepts. Technology's improved greatly to the point that solar panels are actually, you know, worthwhile to get. So, and then on top of that, you help the environment too. So, you know, win-win right there. Just upfront cost is the main thing. So all these concepts are very viable concepts, and we're kind of showing that off. That's what we're trying to show kids. It's like all these things, you can do that yourself, or you know, they're out there and they work. Very simply put.
And hopefully we can actually get people to, like kids to be interested in it, and then when they grow up they can do more research on it and make this even better, so it's even more efficient. Because I think the most efficient ones right now, because there's like two different types of at least these ones, the photovoltaics. There's monocrystalline and polycrystalline, and monocrystalline I think is like its max is only like 20 to 25% efficiency or something like that, and that's, I mean, it's only 20 or 25% of the power that it gets you can actually use. So that's not the best, and it can get better. So that would be, I mean, that'd be pretty cool if they grow up and want to make these to where it's 100% efficient.
Great. Thank you.
Was that it?
Any other questions?
No, we're good.
So if there aren't any other questions, we'll go on to Seth and Isaac, our other fellow interns, and they're going to talk about the curriculum that kind of goes hand in hand with the SunChaser. It's still under development, but they'll talk about that. So without further ado.
Hello, as Gabriel said, me and Seth have created a curriculum for grades K through 12 that we believe to be appropriate to teach solar energy. We decided to also include little projects as well as videos to help explain some concepts, such as for elementary, we expect to teach basic energy concepts, specifically the sun, heat, and how we can use that to our advantage, such as heating homes or even providing electricity. And for middle school, we decided to go a little bit more advanced topics of energy and also a brief introduction of solar panels, such as teaching kids how we can use the sun to, as Gabriel mentioned before, heat up water, cook food, or even clean water. And then for high school, that's about time when they either going to decide to go to college or maybe even a trade job. So we would like to teach them a bit more advanced concepts about the solar panels, such as the different types, why they're more efficient than others, as well as colors and how they can affect the output of a solar panel. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Seth.
So yeah, as Gabriel and Dana and Isaac here, we're all talking about, we made a solar educational tool that is going to be built next year. We plan on finishing it by the fall, but that gives us a good amount of breathing room, a good amount of time to tweak the curriculum as we have. So we made the curriculum for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. But we are in need of educators who are familiar with these grade levels here in New Mexico or APS in Albuquerque to help us refine this and to help make it more appropriate specifically for each grade level in terms of their solar energy knowledge, but also in terms of the hands-on knowledge, hands-on projects we're going to give them. Because we paired this with the SunChaser, but also for each individual grade level. And so, again, we need educators, anybody who's interested in helping us to make this curriculum much better, to make it easier for these students. We are looking for them, and we would love to work with you. If you are an educator, or if you know an educator who would be interested in this, please feel free to share the live stream, but also to contact us. We will have our contact information on the next slide. We are also looking for donors and sponsors from companies, from anybody interested in helping us to bring solar energy to New Mexico high schools and to help us finish the SunChasers we have. So right here we have our contact information and our resources. Our best contact information to find more about the SunChaser and our curriculum, you can go to our website right here. You can also contact our president for New Mexico Solar Energy Association at his email right here. So just to reiterate, any educators, if you know somebody or if you would like to get involved, please contact us. If you are a high school administrator, such as a principal or vice principal, and you would love for us to bring our SunChaser to your school for a visit, again, that would be next year, please contact us. We would love to do that. Again, as any sponsors and sponsorships or volunteers with our organization, that would be fantastic. And with that, we also have a slide for our acknowledgements.
We have a question. There's a question, so can we ask a question?
Oh, yes.
And I don't know if you guys want to take it or them, but I have a question saying, is there any chance to use solar to desalinate seawater?
Yes.
Yes, there are actual methods for that. I think there's really, I think it's one of an old process where they collect rainwater. Well, no, not rainwater, seawater. And they just have a simple mud and simple pipes, probably using hollowed out sticks or stems from plants. And then the sun just heats it up and then it condensates. And then since that mud is probably a bit cooler, it will just help bring that condensation and help purify that water, leaving only the salt behind where the original salt water was.
Thank you.
Passive solar thing.
Yeah, and anytime if you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below.
So I'm hoping that means that we're going to get the SunChaser here at Explorer for a visit sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll have to set that up. That'll be fun. Yeah, okay, you can continue. I'm
Great.
good.
And so we also have acknowledgements here for our mentors, from our supervisors with the organization, as well as our president, Dr. Ghosh at New Mexico Tech. Thank you for this opportunity to work on this, but also to helping us and create this. And so, yeah, again, please contact us. Should we go back to this slide with contact information? Sure. Yeah, awesome. We can have that up there. And yeah, are there any more questions? Please feel free to drop them in the chat, but I do know that it is lagging behind.
Yeah, we are lagging a little bit behind, but we have some. You guys are awesome on comments. You guys did a great job. Yeah, just talking about, solar in homes and stuff like that. So you guys addressed most of the questions so far.
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention. Sorry to step in real quick.
Yeah.
If you're curious about solar in your own home, you can go to the PV watts calculator. It's a little computer site made by NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And it's pretty cool because it can show you, based off your own home, an estimate as to how many solar panels you would need to meet your, energy demands, and how you orient them and how much sunlight you get per year. And that's actually what we based our solar calculations off of here. So it's really, it's not terribly difficult to do. If a couple of us can do it, you can too.
Yes.
Are we good? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and step. I have my mask on.
So I want to thank you guys for coming and spending some time with us on Facebook Live and at Explora for the New Mexico Science Fiesta. And we're going from one solar presentation to another. So our next live event starts at 1 o'clock. It won't be on Facebook Live, but you can still register up until the start time. And that's going to be a tour of the solar thermal facility at Sandia National Labs. So again, we want to thank everyone here today and the New Mexico Solar Energy Association. And look for the SunChaser at your school soon, or here at Explora, hopefully next year. And we'll do a kickoff maybe here. That might be fun. But we want to thank everybody again, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Can I just unplug this?
Yeah. Go.